Every spring, millions of gardeners walk into a nursery, spend good money on plants with beautiful labels, bring them home, water them through June, forget about them in July, and by October, they are gone. Dead. Done. The nursery industry is perfectly fine with that arrangement. You keep buying, they keep selling, but what if I told you there is a completely different way to garden? One where you put a plant in the ground now, and it comes back next year. And the year after? And 10 years from now, it is bigger, more beautiful, and still asking almost nothing from you. That is what perennials do. And today, I am giving you the 20 most beautiful, most reliable, and most ecologically valuable perennials you can plant, right now ranked from impressive to absolutely extraordinary. I have been a professional gardener for over 20 years. I have designed and maintained perennial borders from New England to the Pacific Northwest, from Minnesota winters to Georgia summers. These are not plants I read about. These are plants I have put in the ground, watched fail, watched thrive, and learned from season after season. Stick around, because number 7 on this list looks like it belongs in a luxury botanical garden, but practically grows itself once it is established. Number 12 will completely transform the part of your yard you have been ignoring for years. And number 19, a single plant, one afternoon of your time, can bloom in the same spot for the rest of your life, your children's lives, and quite possibly your grandchildren's lives too. If that sounds like the kind of garden you want, hit subscribe right now. Before plant number 1, here are the 5 standards every plant on this list had to meet. Longevity returns for a minimum of 10 years. Several return for 50. One blooms for a century. American adaptability covers at minimum USDA zones 4 through 8. Zone-specific notes provided throughout. Ecological value. Serves documented American wildlife monarch butterflies, ruby-throated hummingbirds, goldfinches, native bees, or beneficial predatory insects. Low input after establishment. The work goes in once. The reward compounds for years. Commercial availability. Every cultivar named today can be found at American nurseries, Home Depot, Lowe's, or online at High Country Gardens and Bluestone Perennials. If a plant did not meet all 5, it did not make this list. Let's begin. Number 1. Black-Eyed Susan. Rudbeckia fulgida. Black-Eyed Susan is native to the North American prairie. Nobody planted it there, nobody waters it, and it has returned every single year for thousands of years without anyone's help. That is evolution working in your favor. Zones 3, 9. Handles the heat of a Georgia summer, the drought of a Kansas August, and the cold of a New England winter without complaint. Full sun, decent drainage that is the entire care plan, wildlife value, native bees and butterflies through summer. When the seed heads form in fall, goldfinches and chickadees feed on them through winter. Your garden keeps working long after you stop looking at it. Goldsturm RHS Award of Garden Merit winner. Widely available at most American garden centers. Think of it as the anchor, the plant that holds the whole border together while everything around it comes and goes. Number 2. Coneflower Echinacea, purpurea. Echinacea is the same plant behind the immune supplements in your medicine cabinet, used medicinally by Native Americans for centuries. In your garden, its value is ecological and visual, and both are outstanding. Critical detail most gardeners miss. Leave the seed heads standing through winter. Those dried cones become essential food for goldfinches and chickadees on cold January mornings when everything else is buried under snow. Zones 3-9. Drought-tolerant. Deer-resistant. 3 plants in May can become 12 within 5 years through gentle self-seeding. All free. Magnuses for classic deep purple. Cheyenne Spirit for a full spectrum of coral, orange, and red from one seed packet. Think of it as wildlife infrastructure, a living buffet that serves your garden from July through January. Number 3. Blanket flower, Gaillardia grandiflora. Blanket flower opens in late spring and does not quit until the first hard frost in full sun, poor soil, blazing heat, and drought. These are prairie plants that evolved on American soil. Those conditions are not a problem. They are home. Zones 3-10. One of the broadest climate ranges on this list, equally at home in Phoenix heat and Chicago winters. Skip the fertilizer and extra water, they bloom more when you do less. Goblin for compact 1-2-inch border edges. Arizona sun for outstanding heat performance. Think of it as the plant that never takes a day off, keeping the garden alive during the late summer slowdown when everything else has already peaked. Number 4. Yarrow Achillea millefolium. Number 4 is the plant most gardeners overlook entirely, and they pay for that mistake every single summer. Yarrow takes its botanical name from the legend that Achilles used it to treat battlefield wounds. But here is the advanced detail that separates serious gardeners from beginners. Most people think pollinators means bees and butterflies. Yarrow attracts parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and lacewings, the beneficial predatory insects that feed on aphids, caterpillars, and other garden pests. Plant yarrow, and you are building a natural pest management system. Zones 3-9. Hot, dry slope that nothing else wants to grow on? Plant yarrow. It covers the slope, holds the soil, blooms from early summer through fall, feeds beneficial insects, and asks nothing in return. Coronation gold for rich yellow. Paprika for striking red-orange. Both cut and dry beautifully for indoor arrangements. Think of it as the professional's secret weapon, doing more ecological work per square foot than almost anything else in the border. Number 5. Catmint nepeta. Ex Faucigny. Here is the design principle professionals use that most gardeners never learn. Cool blue-purple tones make warm colors around them look richer. Plant catmint near roses, near blanket flower, near coneflower, and the contrast intensifies everything. It is the plant that makes other plants look better. The rebloom technique. Shear it back hard after the first flush. Within weeks, it produces a completely fresh wave of blooms. In ideal conditions, a third flush before frost is possible. Zones 3-8. Drought-tolerant. Deer-resistant. Aromatic foliage. Walker's Low Perennial Plant of the Year winner is the cultivar to find. Think of it as the designer's foundation, the plant that makes your whole garden look more intentional than it actually required you to be. Number 6. Lavender. Lavandula. Angustifolia. Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and medieval European gardens all valued lavender. 4,000 years of track record. It adds fragrance to your garden, structure, pollinator habitat, and a sensory experience that changes the quality of being outdoors. The mistake that kills it is kindness. Rich soil, extra water, and heavy mulch are lavender killers. It wants sharp drainage, lean soil, full sun, and to be left alone. Overwatering is the #1 cause of lavender death in American home gardens. Zones 5-9. Zone 4 gardeners grow hidcote or Munstead and mulch the crowns with gravel in winter. The Mountain West and California are lavender paradise. Think of it as an atmosphere, the plant that turns your garden into a destination that smells extraordinary from 20 feet away. Number 7. Baptisia. Baptisia. Australis. Number 7 looks like it belongs in a luxury botanical garden, and here is what makes it extraordinary. False indigo produces upright stalks of deep violet-blue flowers in May and June that stop people mid-stride. Year 1, it sits quietly. Year 2, it starts to impress. Year 3, it becomes the most spectacular thing in your entire garden and stays that way for 30 years without ever needing division. Baptisia is a native North American legume. It hosts nitrogen-fixing bacteria in its root nodules that pull nitrogen from the air and deposit it into your soil, improving growing conditions for every plant around it. For free, season after season. Zones 3-9. Native to the eastern and central United States, particularly magnificent in the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic, where it evolved. Think of it as the investment Perennial asks for patience early, delivers breathtaking beauty for the next 3 decades. Number 8. Perennial Salvia. Salvia nemorosa. Those tight, upright spikes of violet blue or deep purple create a visual anchor in any mixed border from late spring through fall. And the rebloom strategy is what makes it extraordinary. Cut the spent spikes back after the first flush, and a second wave emerges within weeks. Combine May-Night for early bloom, Caradonna for mid-season, and East Friesland for late, and you maintain a continuous ribbon of blue from May through October. Zones 4-9. Aromatic foliage naturally deters deer. Drought-tolerant. One of the most reliable performers in hot, humid summers, Think of it as the workhorse that also happens to be gorgeous, earning its garden real estate every single week of the season. Number 9. Russian Sage, Salvia yangi. Russian sage was recently reclassified from Perovskia atriplycifolia to Salvia yangi. It is not a true sage. It is not from Russia. What it is, however, is one of the most elegant plants in the perennial garden. From midsummer through fall, tall, silver-white stems, topped with tiny lavender-blue flowers, create a misty, cloud-like effect that moves in the breeze and catches the light. It creates atmosphere. That is the only accurate word. It performs better in lean, poor soil than in rich soil. Heavy fertilizing makes it floppy. Full sun, excellent drainage, and benign neglect, that is the formula. Zones 4-9. Exceptional. In the hot, dry West and Midwest. Drought-tolerant. Deer-resistant. Cut to 6 inches in fall, and it returns reliably each spring. Think of it as the plant that makes people stop at your garden and ask what it is, and the answer is one of the easiest things you grow. Number 10. Penstemon. Beardtongue. Penstemon species. Penstemons' tubular flowers are not randomly shaped. They are the product of millions of years of coevolution with one specific American visitor, the ruby-throated hummingbird. When penstemon blooms, hummingbirds appear as if they received a signal, hovering from flower to flower in a precise feeding sequence. Zones 3-9. Native species evolved on rocky slopes and poor soils across North America. Once established, they require almost nothing. Combine with salvia and catmint for a pollinator border that hums with activity from May through August. Think of it as a hummingbird highway, the plant that tells every ruby-throated hummingbird within half a mile your garden is worth visiting. Number 11. Hosta. In those dim, dappled corners where sun-loving plants fail, hostas create lush, textural richness that stops you mid-step. Thousands of cultivars leaves the size of dinner plates in deep forest green, glowing chartreuse, cool blue-green, and gold. Almost all of them remarkably tough once established. A well-placed hosta can live in the same spot for 50 years. Plant it once, divide it occasionally, and for decades, it gives back beauty where almost nothing else will grow. Zones 3-9. Watch for slugs in humid climates like the Pacific Northwest and Southeast. A ring of diatomaceous earth handles them cleanly. Think of it as the foundation of the shade garden, the plant that makes every difficult, dark corner feel intentional and magnificent. Number 12. Estilbe. Estilbe. X. R&C. Number 12 will completely transform the part of your yard you have been staring at for years without knowing what to do with it. Estilbe brings dramatic vertical color, feathery plumes rising 18 to 36 inches into moist, shaded spaces where almost no other flowering perennial can perform. Plant it near a downspout, beside a pond, or in a low area that stays damp after rain. While most perennials would rot there, Estilbe thrives. Combine early bridal veil, mid-season fennel in deep red, and late purple rain, and you stretch the display from June through August. Leave the dried plumes standing through winter. They turn coppery brown and provide structure long after the color is gone. Zones 3-8. Outstanding in the Pacific Northwest, Upper Midwest, and Northeast. Think of it as the solution plant, the one that takes your most ignored spot and turns it into the most beautiful corner of the entire property. Number 13. Bleeding Heart. Lamprocapnos spectabilis. Those arching stems hung with perfectly heart-shaped flowers in rose pink or pure white look like something from a fairy tale, and they appear in May when the early season needs drama most. Then, as summer heat arrives, Bleeding Heart gracefully goes dormant. That dormancy is not a flaw. It is a sophisticated seasonal handoff. As it fades, hostas and ferns planted nearby grow into the space. It vacates 2 plants, 2 jobs, the same soil, seamless month-to-month interest. Zones 3-9. Thrives in the same moist, shaded conditions hostas love. Alba, in pure white, is particularly elegant in woodland settings. Both colors attract ruby-throated hummingbirds. Think of it as the spring romantic, the plant that makes every garden it inhabits feel softer and more poetic. Number 14. Heuchera. Coral bells. Most perennials give you a few weeks of bloom and functional foliage the rest of the season. Heuchera reverses that completely. The foliage is the main performance: deep burgundy, copper, orange, caramel, silver, lime green, near black purple, running from spring emergence until the ground freezes. Coral bells are the punctuation marks of the perennial border. Tucked between taller plants, they create visual breaks, define edges, and maintain color continuity when everything nearby is between bloom cycles. Zones 3-9. Sun or part shade. Outstanding in containers. Hummingbirds visit the summer flower wands consistently. Think of it as year-round living art, the plant whose gift is not a few weeks of bloom, but a full season of foliage color. Number 15. Delphinium. Delphinium elatum. Number 15 produces the rarest color in the entire plant kingdom, and once you see it in a garden, you will never forget it. Blue. True, deep, sky-filling blue. Not purple that leans blue. Not lavender. Blue. And delphinium creates it more magnificently than almost any other plant on Earth. Those spikes rise 4, 5, even 6 feet high vertical drama that reshapes the scale of every garden they enter. Stake them before they need it. After the first heavy bloom, cut the spikes back to the basal foliage to encourage a second flush in late summer. Pacific hybrid cultivars like Black Knight and Galahad are the most reliable for American gardens. Zones 3-7. Not the lowest maintenance plant on this list. They want rich soil and consistent moisture. But that wave of impossible blue in June justifies every bit of extra attention. Think of it as the backdrop plant, the one that makes every flower planted in front of it look like it is performing on a purpose-built stage. Number 16. Liatris, blazing star. Liatris spicata. Liatris produces tall, bold spikes of fluffy purple flower heads with a detail that makes it botanically fascinating. It blooms from the top of the spike downward. That is the exact opposite of nearly every other spike-flowering plant in existence, creating a deep violet-purple column that opens progressively over several weeks. Monarch butterflies and swallowtails are drawn to Liatris in a way that is almost hard to believe until you witness it. A single clump in full bloom can host a dozen or more large butterflies simultaneously, a genuine spectacle during monarch migration season. Zones 3-9. Native American prairie plant perfectly adapted to the heat, drought, and wind of the Midwest and Great Plains. Plant the corms in May, and you can have blooms in your very first season. Think of it as the vertical exclamation point, the plant that says this garden is alive and it belongs to the butterflies as much as it belongs to you. Number 17. Daylily. Hemerocallis. Each daylily flower lasts just 24 hours. That is what the Greek name Hemerocallis means. But each plant produces dozens, sometimes hundreds of buds in sequence. The individual flower is fleeting. The display is relentless. Over 80,000 registered cultivars in every color from pale lemon to near black burgundy. Daylilies are toxic to cats specifically and seriously. Not to dogs, not to most other animals. If you have outdoor cats, plant these with full awareness. Zones 3-9. Full sun or part shade. Clay, sandy, slopes, containers. Daylilies are genuinely indifferent to adversity. Stella d'Oro and Happy Returns are repeat bloomers that give multiple flushes of color per season. Think of it as the plant that asks for nothing and gives you everything, the one that makes even a first-year gardener look like they know exactly what they are doing. Slow down with me for a moment. The final 3 plants represent something beyond a beautiful garden. These are the plants you put in the ground, not just for this season, but for every season that follows. Number 18. Columban. Aquilegia. Columbine looks fragile. Those nodding flowers with backward-pointing spurs hovering on wiry stems above lacy foliage look like they belong in a botanical illustration. And then you discover what they actually are: cold-hardy to extreme temperatures, tolerant of poor soil and partial shade, bridging the visual gap between spring bulbs and summer perennials. Ruby-throated hummingbirds reach the nectar through the front of the flower. Bumblebees chew through the base of the spurs from the outside, stealing the nectar without pollinating the plant. This is called nectar robbing, a documented ecological behavior that gives columbine a botanical personality unlike anything else in the garden. Once established, it moves through the garden on its own. It crosses readily between varieties, producing color combinations each generation that you never planned and could not have bought. Think of it as the plant that reminds you what perennial gardening is really about, not control, but partnership with something that has its own agenda and its own beauty. Number 19. Peonia lactiflora. Number 19. One plant, one afternoon of your time can bloom in the same spot for the rest of your life. Your children's lives, and your grandchildren's lives too. A peony can bloom in the same spot for 100 years. That is a documented horticultural fact. There are peonies blooming today in New England gardens that were planted by great-great-grandmothers. They outlast the people who plant them. They outlast the gardens around them. Enormous, lush flowers in white, cream, pink, coral, and deep red. Fragrance that is among the most intoxicating of any plant on earth. A bloom season of 3 to 4 spectacular weeks in late spring that most gardeners consider the highlight of their entire gardening year. Do not plant the eyes, the red buds at the crown deeper than 1 to 2 inches below the soil surface. Plant them too deep, and the peony grows leaves every spring and never blooms. Get this right once, and you are done for a lifetime. Zones 3, 8. Peonies need winter cold to bloom reliably perfect for the Northeast, Midwest, and Upper South. Zones 9 and above have winters too mild to satisfy their chilling requirement. Think of it as the strongest possible argument for perennial gardening. One plant, one hole, one afternoon. Generations of beauty. Number 20. Iris. Iris carries a regal simplicity no other perennial can replicate. 3 upright petals standards. 3 drooping petals falls. Color combinations that seem impossible for one flower family to contain deep purple with yellow beards, pure white with blue veining, copper, rust, and bronze that exist nowhere else in the plant kingdom. The rhizomes must sit at or just above soil level visible, exposed to summer sun. Buried rhizomes produce leaves and no flowers. This is counterintuitive, but it is what drives blooming. Siberian iris is a different character entirely. Graceful, vase-shaped clumps with refined flowers. Tolerates moist conditions and partial shade, bridging sun lovers and true shade plants. Zones 3-9. Divides easily every 3 to 4 years. One original rhizome becomes dozens over time, all free, all from your original investment. Think of it as the most generous, self-multiplying plant in the perennial garden, the one that keeps giving back long after you have forgotten what you first paid for it. 20 plants. Here is exactly how to use them based on your situation. Full sun, hot, dry summers, black-eyed Susan, coneflower, blanket flower, yarrow, Russian sage, liatris, lavender, daylily, shade and moisture challenges, hosta, astilbe, bleeding heart, heuchera, ruby-throated hummingbirds, penstemon, salvia, delphinium, heuchera, columbine, bleeding heart, monarch and swallowtail conservation, liatris, coneflower, yarrow, baptisia, black-eyed Susan, fragrance and sensory experience, lavender, catmint, peony, the long-game plants that outlast you. Peony, hosta, baptisia, iris, columbine. Starting from absolute zero. Black-eyed Susan, coneflower, catmint, daylily, blanket flower. 5 plants, all forgiving, all beautiful. Start there and build. We started this video talking about a cycle. Every spring, money spent on plants that are dead by October. The nursery industry profits from impermanence, and most gardeners have accepted that as just the way things are. Every plant on this list interrupts that cycle. You plant once, you tend occasionally, and for years, sometimes decades, sometimes a century, they give back. Not because you worked harder, because you chose differently. In 20 years of professional gardening, I keep coming back to the same truth. The best gardens are not built in a season. They are grown year after year with knowledge, intention, and enough patience to let something reach its full strength. Perennials are not just a gardening category. They are a different philosophy, one that says some things genuinely get better the longer you leave them alone. If this changed the way you think about your garden, hit that like button. Subscribe if you have not already. Every week, I put out professional gardening knowledge that usually takes 20 years to accumulate. You do not have to wait that long. I will see you in the next one.